my name is Kimberly Wilson of Tranquility Du Jour, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Kimberly. So please grab pen and paper, cup of tea, whatever might be helpful, just as I share some tips and tricks on how to limit or decrease social media's presence in our lives, how to have more time for really what matters most for us, to us, and our intentions for the new year, the new season, whenever you are watching this. So I have them all written down, so I just want to share, kind of like starting with is tracking your time, right? Apple does a good job of this, of letting you know screen time every week. I'm always like, surely not, but it's really nice to know, okay, where is my time and my attention going? It's shocking. So track it and build your self-awareness. Like, just notice, oh, every time I get into the elevator, I pick up my phone, right? Or, I wonder if I could just like watch the floors go up. It's like, why do we have to be entertained constantly? And, I'm as guilty of this as the next person. So this is by no means a soapbox. It's just sharing with you some things that I found helpful along the way, and then what I read that others have found helpful along the way. The other thing, and I have not done this yet, but is removing the app. So that's one thing that is encouraged. Now, I will say I did remove the app for Facebook because I completely got off Facebook last year. So New Year's Eve of 2021 into 2022, I just I deactivated my Facebook account. So I haven't used it for a year and I don't miss it. I got an email from someone who was asking, because she was like, I really want to spend more or less time on social media, more time with connecting like in person with others and doing things that are important to me. And so that's what instigated this video of just thinking like, wow, how many people struggle in this way or feel like I could never get off Facebook or I could never get off XYZ. And yet I wonder what you could fill that time and space with. So I will say, getting off Facebook off an entire year, have not missed it, not once. It took a little while to get used to like not looking for the app on my phone because, in between sessions or events or meetings or whatever, I would just pull out my phone and then just look Instagram, Facebook, email, right? Like a merry-go-round. Why? So I have not missed it. And, she asked, she was like, well, how do you stay in touch with people? And I'll say, well, the thousands of friends on Facebook, I don't know what that high school person is doing anymore. And I don't know what, the person I hung out with a lot 10 years ago, but haven't seen in a decade is doing now. And you know what? That's okay. Is it interesting and entertaining sometimes? Sure. But, it's also like, where do I want my time and energy and attention to go? And it just was not on Facebook. Now, who knows? Like, will that change? I'm not saying, never, but I'm not interested in being back on it. And I know a lot of people that are actually leaving Instagram too, and definitely a lot of people leaving Twitter. So there's no right or wrong. It's just finding what works for you. And where do you want your energy and time to go? Our attention is so precious and so limited. All our resources, right? Our time, our energy. The other thing is use apps, which is crazy. We use apps to, help with the apps, but to limit your time usage. I will say I bought Freedom a couple years ago because I found that, and it's an app that just shuts down the internet completely. So if you want to write or really focus, you just work away and you set up your little limit and you can't access it. You're like, oh, I'll just go to my phone. You can't. So there are different apps and different tools out there to help for those of us who may not have as much self-control. Because too, sometimes when you're writing, you're like, oh, well, let me just research this real quick, right? And if you do, that takes you out of the practice that you're working in. And it's a completely change of thought, right? Writing, the creative right brain side versus researching left brain. So what we want to do is keep you more kind of in the groove. And these apps can be quite helpful with that for anyone who's interested. Charge your phone in the other room. So sometimes I can have the phone by my bed, but other times I can't, right? So it just depends on our little charging station. And I will say it's very nice to not have it in the bedroom, because then if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep, I wouldn't reach for my phone. I would never get out of bed, go into my living room and get my phone, because I would wake up my partner and my pugs, right? So I would never do that. But yet if it's right next to me, I've got it. So there's something about charging your phone elsewhere that can also be a helpful separator. The other thing I want to mention is turn off all those notifications. Who cares if somebody just liked your Instagram post, right? Like, who cares? I mean, maybe it is very important to you. And if so, then keep it, right? But otherwise, it's just this constant ding, ding, buzz pulled in all these different directions. Like, no wonder we can't focus or, move closer towards our creative dreams. Okay, I have three more for you. Get a hobby, right? So we can spend so much time on our phones. And I recently interviewed someone for the podcast, Matthew Dix, and he was talking about Someday is Today, his new book. And, he was like, are we ever going to be, we were discussing this in the interview, are we ever going to be like, I wish at the end of our lives, I wish I'd spent more time on Instagram, right? So it's just thinking about like, what is most important to you? And that's where this idea of a hobby comes in. I think we've just become so distracted, and we'll just pick up our phone if, we're like, I have an extra 5 minutes. So instead, could you do some coloring? I know somebody who's really into online coloring. I didn't even know there was a thing. She does it on her phone, or is there embroidery? Like, I love embroidery. It's like painting with thread, right? Or do I want to do watercolor and send postcards to my friends? Do I want to get those thank you notes out from the holidays? So thinking what could be something else to occupy your time and attention versus going right into social media. Next, connect. I mean, imagine connecting in real life. And how many of us go out to eat or have tea with a friend, or I'm guilty of this with my partner, and then we'll just pick up our phones. And it's like, what are we doing, right? We could look at our phones elsewhere. Like, it's so important. Our presence and focus is such a gift to people. So can we give that to others? And then last but not least, be selective of who you let into your social media orbits or bubble, So are you inspired by what you're seeing? Are you challenged in some way? Are you triggered in some way? Well, stop following, you can even just mute people. If you're like, oh, I don't want to unfollow them. I know them, but I don't like their content. Well, mute them, right? That's a nice way to do it. They won't know that you've muted them, and then you don't have to see their material in your feed. And it could just be something that's just triggering, I don't know, lots of photos of a dog and you just lost your dog that looks just like theirs. Keep that stuff in mind, because we're not just looking at images. I mean, or posts, on Facebook, and images on Facebook, but it's just like, what is it bringing up for you? And is that positive? So I really encourage you to surround yourself, your social media, your emails, your friends, your kind of life as much as possible with as much positive content as we can, and that's in the form of podcasts, right? And social media and books you're reading and people you're spending time with. It all makes a difference. So I hope this is helpful. And I hope this answers your question on how do I get off Facebook? I hope this was helpful, because I will say it's been a year. I do not miss it at all. It's been actually a year and a day. So I hope this is helpful as you move into having kind of a more stress-free relationship with social media. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in, and I wish you a happy, happy new year.